Welcome back to another episode on the Truckmaster channel, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about what happened to me in Afghanistan. Stay tuned.
Okay, just M4, just start firing if you have to. Just start popping, keep going. If you see, good job. Executioner 1-2, contact 9 o'clock high, rig line. Gardner, anything. Be careful, those mountains are like impact, explosion impact. 9 o'clock. Had a bullet hit the truck. You see it? You see it? You see it?
Now, if you're just stopping by for the first time, we do a lot of awesome diesel builds. For example, the one right behind me. I show you guys how to build these things, and not only that, we do a lot of really cool vlog videos. So if you guys are interested in following my journey, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well as that like. I would really appreciate it. So I get a lot of this in the comments, so this is kind of why I'm making this video, but not only that, I don't know, I just kind of feel moved or compelled to share my story with you because I feel like it may help somebody. Now, I have to be open with you guys. This is going to be extremely difficult for me to explain. If you saw that truck on the thumbnail, I actually have real footage in this video. Today, I'll show it to you guys. But I'm going to explain to you guys sort of what led up to it, sort of my injuries, what ended up happening, also how it impacted me to start a YouTube channel and keep going. So I served a total of 15 years in the Army, and I also went overseas several times to Iraq and Afghanistan. Let's go ahead and rewind this thing really fast here. So September 11th, 2001, I'll never forget that day. A lot of you guys that were alive will never forget that day, where you're at, what you were thinking, what you were doing, and how it impacted your lives as well as this country. It was just a normal day for me in Flint, Michigan, and my mom started screaming my name, told me to come in the house. She was glued to the TV set. I looked at it, and at that very moment, I watched the second plane hit the tower, the last tower. Long story short here, regardless of the politics behind it, whatever happened there, it doesn't really matter. The country was attacked. I wanted to do something about it. I'm a young, fit, capable, smart guy, and I just felt compelled to do this. So I wanted to serve my country in any aspect. I actually wanted to join the Army or the Marines and become a grunt. I wanted to just get right in the front line and fight the bad guys. It made me very angry. I wanted to do something about it. I met with various recruiters, but the reason why I joined the Army is because it was the only branch in the military where I can actually pick my job. But unfortunately, infantry was not on the plate for me, so I was not able to pick that. They told me the only position available was field artillery. And I said, well, there's got to be something else. And they said, well, we have cook, we have truck driver, and a few other positions that were supporting jobs. What led me up to the whole truck scene, this right here, was because of the job that I picked in the Army, which would be a truck driver. I asked the recruiter, is being a truck driver dangerous? They said, absolutely. You will be on the front lines, you will be hauling supplies, and you will be out there with the rest of them. It really piqued my interest because not only am I going to be able to actually be in combat, but I'm also going to be able to drive these sweet Army vehicles. I'll also be able to learn a level of maintenance with these vehicles, and on top of it, I sort of get a trade if I get out of the military. So, you know, it all kind of made sense. So that's why I joined the Army. In 2003, I married my high school sweetheart, which is Melanie. You guys see her on the channel all the time. We're still married till this day. We have 4 beautiful children currently, and God has just been really good. My first duty assignment was Fort Riley, Kansas, and I drove the coolest transportation vehicles in the world. The trucks that I operated were called heavy equipment transporters, or HETs. Now, if you guys saw this vehicle in person, you would be in awe. The thing has 52-inch Michelin tires, and it's designed to haul tanks, but it'll literally haul anything. To put this in perspective, when the trailer is hooked up to the 5th wheel, it's connected to a steering wedge, which actuates the bogie cylinders to turn with the front and rear tires of the tractor. The maneuvering capability of this truck is just incredible. It's virtually a tank on wheels. I love this thing. We had a lot of experience with it. I drove this truck probably for about 8 years in the military, numerous deployments in Iraq with it. We just done a lot of really cool stuff. I know being a truck driver isn't very glamorous, but being one in the Army, man, it was just over the top for me. Now, as far as my deployments in Iraq is concerned, I don't really want to get too in depth with what I experienced overseas there. But what I will tell you is I definitely encountered small arms fire, which is basically the enemy shooting at us, RPGs, all kinds of other extra stuff. I think what I can take away from Iraq, though, is the privileges that we have here in this country, the freedoms that we have in this country, and on top of it, the great people that I met along the way. You gotta think about it, I'm just a kid from Flint, Michigan. It was a huge culture shock for me to see another country. I'll never forget the first time that I encountered a real live round flying towards me. When I was younger, I thought I was invisible, but that really terrified me and really woke me up. Yeah, I definitely saw some combat in Iraq, more than I actually thought I would. But, you know, of course, some people had it way worse than others, especially for the infantrymen out there, or even some other jobs where they're actually there, like on the front line fighting those guys. I had a lot of cool experiences out there. I met a lot of great people, and I served with some of the best Americans you'll ever meet. But moving forward, I got promoted to sergeant super quick in the Army. I got promoted in 2 years. I spent 2 years active duty, was promoted to sergeant, and then when I hit my 4 years in the Army, I was promoted to staff sergeant, and that was a huge accomplishment in my life. But I just fell in love with the Army. I felt like I was really cut out for it. I decided to re-enlist and stay in. After re-enlisting, I was then assigned to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I met with my sergeant major at the battalion, which was actually 2nd Battalion, 327th Infantry, and he gave me the awesome job to be a platoon sergeant in a distribution platoon, and my job was to support the infantry in that battalion. I was in charge of about 60 soldiers at the time, and our job was to train to go to Afghanistan. I gotta be honest with you guys, I thought I already saw it all. I felt seasoned, you know, I've already spent a few deployments already overseas. I got this, you know, but I've never been to Afghanistan. But it was a little more low-key for myself because at that point I was then a squad leader. I was only in charge of about 13 guys. But the base that I was stationed in was called Fob Joyce. It was actually in the Kunar province. They call it RC East. We were located right on the border of Pakistan. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but you know, our job, of course, was to support the infantry guy. Going all the way back to when I joined the military about wanting to be on the front line, you know, wanting the most dangerous job that I could possibly get. I gotta say, man, this one took the cake. We were out on missions all the time, weekly. I mean, there was times when we were on the road almost every day. We've encountered a lot of enemy activity. I mean, we've been shot at.
1-5 got PID. Keep going.
RPGs, explosions. We've called in a lot of air support. We have seen a lot of things. I'm not trying to discredit a lot of the guys that were out there that have seen a lot more than I have. This has nothing to do with that whatsoever. I'm just gonna explain to you guys my experience. About 6 months into my deployment, we were tasked to do a combat logistical patrol to Fob Fenty, which is actually in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, which I'm sure isn't a base anymore. I was the lead truck in the convoy. We were operating MRAPs, and they were considered gun trucks, and we were just security guys at that point. During our patrol, right before we get into the city of Jalalabad, there's a very long bridge, and we cross this bridge all the time. We've never had any real issues. So as we were crossing the bridge, it happened within the blink of an eye. The truck just exploded. The only thing that I can remember in the truck was a super bright light. I felt like I was picked up very gently and placed down very gently. It was the weirdest feeling ever. But I was knocked out. Supposedly I was knocked out for under a minute. I came to in the truck and all I saw was smoke. And I had a concussion. I looked over at my driver and he was just kind of slumped over the steering wheel. And his name was Ratchford. I looked over at my guy and I'm just trying to wake him up. I mean, I'm just smacking him on the head. I'm trying to wake him up. I didn't know if he was dead, but we needed to get out of the truck. I knew the truck was on fire, but this vehicle was fully engulfed in flames. And he kind of looked over, he woke up and he kind of looked over at me and he's like, "Sergeant, we were hit." And I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding, I know, we gotta get out." And I'm trying to open my passenger door and it just wouldn't open. I'm trying to figure that one out. And my gunner, you know, that was one thing that kind of hit me hard. His face looked like hamburger meat. That was the very first thing that I saw. I mean, I looked over at him and I was trying to help him get out. At the same time, I had my other soldier back there, his name was Richardson. And, you know, we're trying to get out of the vehicle. But I remember my driver just basically falling out of the vehicle because he couldn't touch anything, everything was on fire. I climbed over the radio mount to the driver's side and I looked down and, you know, my ears are ringing. I didn't know what was going on, I was so confused. You know, guys, this isn't the very first time that this has actually happened to me where I've been directly hit with an improvised explosive device or a bomb. But this one kind of impacted me a little bit harder. I basically just fell out of the truck. I realized that I was alive. When I fell out of that truck, I was greeted with a big pond of diesel oil and fuel everywhere. Again, I mean, my ears were ringing, I was spinning, I had my hand on the oil, and I kind of looked around, you know, I was super dizzy, and all I heard was screaming. It was just screaming like you wouldn't believe everywhere. From what I'm noticing, what I'm gathering around me, there's children, there's men and women, and I don't want to get into any graphic details, but I'm sure you can imagine what I'm trying to tell you. There was a lot of folks that died that day, a lot of locals. And when I stood up, I looked at my soldier, Ratchford, and he looked at me and said, and my assistant gunner, he got out of the truck too before I even knew it. But he looked at me and said, Richardson's still in the truck. So I picked up my weapon off the ground. I kind of gathered my thoughts, and I thought immediately, the truck's on fire, my guy's in there. So me and my guy ran up to him to help him get out of the burning vehicle. He was able to get out alive. It was awesome. You know, I was holding him. He was in a lot of pain. He was panicking. I was just holding him on the street, and I was just telling him everything's gonna be okay, you're alive. I was like, dude, look at me, man, you're alive. Everything is fine, everything's good. But it all happened so quickly, but in my mind, it happened so slow-mo. We were able to get into our medical vehicle where my medic was able to perform aid on all 4 of us. They checked us all out, and we were all hospitalized. I was there for about 2 weeks, and I'll never forget it because I couldn't stand up straight. If I stood up for any period of time, I would just fall over. It was the weirdest thing. But bottom line there, my gunner really wasn't that bad. It was just, he was bleeding, and it just didn't look right to me in the beginning. But he was pretty beat up in his face, but he was good to go. My driver, as well as my assistant gunner, they both had concussions. My injuries there was burns, bruises, concussion. I also had a traumatic brain injury as well. But overall, I was good. I was coughing up black stuff for about a week, but you know, I was good. This was back in 2010. God was definitely looking out for us. There's no way that I'd be alive without him. If that door would have opened, I would have fell right off the side of that bridge and into the Kunar River. And to me, it doesn't make any sense that door didn't open because we didn't get hit on the passenger side, we got hit on the driver's side. And my driver, he took it like a champion because he actually took the direct hit, which would be on the driver's side. But he did a really good job pulling through. And then later into my deployment, something crazy happened where I broke 2 ribs. Actually, they were fractured, they weren't completely broken. And they were gonna send me back home to the States. I just couldn't leave my guys. It was a very rough couple weeks for me because I was just sitting there watching my guys go out on missions and I couldn't go with them. But while I was out there, you know, a little bit later on, I decided to re-enlist again on the mountain, which was really cool. And then of course, we redeployed back to the States, back to Fort Campbell. And I decided to become a recruiter. Not only that, I thought it would just be a great opportunity to spend quality time with my family, my wife, and my kids. Oh, by the way, I do want to say one thing. I was having horrible memory loss. I couldn't remember when my second daughter was born. I couldn't remember even being there. It was very interesting. That whole part of my brain there's a stent there where I just completely, I felt detached. It took me a while to get over that. You know, that deployment was very rough for our battalion as a whole. They made a documentary video, if you guys are ever interested in watching it. It's called The Hornet's Nest. And that was our battalion. We lost several guys overseas, and that was very hard to deal with. A few of those guys I was very close to. They were very good friends of mine. As a matter of fact, one of them was my neighbor on base, Brian Burgess. I'll never forget him. We went to air assault school together. He was a good friend of mine. It was very hard to come home and him not be there. That was very difficult for me. But you know, guys, I'm a leader in the Army. I have to move forward. I got to keep moving. And I thought, you know, being a recruiter is probably one of the best things that I can do at the time. And then when I'm done with my detail there, I'll go back and do something different. Some of you guys that are watching this video, you're probably really confused because a lot of people in the military know that you retire at 20 years, not 15. About 5 years later, I started forgetting things. It got so bad to the point where I started passing out at work and I was going to the emergency room. Doctors couldn't really figure out exactly what was going on. They dubbed it that I had traumatic brain injury from war, but things were actually spiraling out of control. Things were actually getting worse. And at that point, they decided to medically discharge me under combat-related injuries. So that's exactly why I retired from the Army. I was medically retired. I wasn't able to finish my extra 5 years to hit the 20. That was extremely hard on me. I wasn't asking for this, but it was sort of a blessing in disguise. Now, going back to my truck in Afghanistan when it was hit with an IED, it was actually called a VB-IED, which is a Vehicle-Borne Improvised Explosive Device. And really what that means is a guy packed a car full of explosives and he just drove his car right into our truck and command detonated the bombs. So this guy's overall motive was to kill himself, to get rid of the infidels or whatever was going on in his brain. I think that that event in my life was very significant because, you know, I got out of there alive. I come home. Yes, I had some mental issues, not gonna lie, you know, anybody would going through that. And I know a lot of people have dealt with way worse than I have, but at the same time, you know, it seemed like I was good. I was still physically fit, mentally tough. Everything was great. You know, I was doing my job. In fact, when I became a recruiter, I was doing a great job. And I remember when I was a recruiter, man, I enjoyed that too because it was great. I was very successful at it and it was just cool to be able to see people come in and join. And now, don't get me wrong, I told them the truth. I even told them this story. I wanted my recruits to know, you know, what to expect and what I experienced. I think that was very important before they make, you know, an educated decision about moving forward in their life. But was I afraid of death? Absolutely. You know, who wouldn't be? I have a family. I want to be there to support them. But what I do know that if I was to die, I have faith. I know that I'm going to heaven when I die. You know, I accepted Jesus at a very young age when I was 16. But I really think that God was trying to get my attention at that point in my life. But it wasn't easy. I think the biggest supporters in this role right here would definitely be my faith and my family, my wife, my awesome wife, my supportive wife. She's been through everything with me, all the way back from when we graduated high school. It's just incredible how that worked out, and I'm so thankful for her. Back to my YouTube channel and sort of what led me up to this point right here. I purchased a 2007.5 Silverado. It was a 6.6 liter Duramax diesel, and I was absolutely hooked. It was lifted, Victory red, beautiful truck, 6-inch lift. I was in love with that thing, but you guys probably saw that YouTube video. Long story short, when I was a recruiter, I couldn't afford the kids' Christian school because that's what they wanted to do. I couldn't afford that and the truck, so I had to sell the truck. So that was kind of the story there. But you know, it was really cool because later on in the years, I was able to purchase this truck. At the time, it was within my budget. It was just really cool to be able to build this truck, especially on the channel. But you know, I initially started the channel because it had so many issues, and I started making how-to YouTube videos on how to fix this vehicle. And the YouTube channel just exploded. On top of that, I was hardcore in social media because I was an Army recruiter. You have to know that stuff in order to be successful, of course. So I incorporated a lot of my learnings that I learned in the Army, as well as the maintenance that I provided on my trucks, on those diesel trucks overseas, as well as, you know, here in the States. And I sort of incorporated that into a really awesome hobby. And it turned into this really cool YouTube channel where you guys are subscribing and watching the channel and supporting the videos. But when I got out of the Army, I still wanted to be sort of in the automotive industry. So I was hired into the dealership in the maintenance department, and it was a lot of fun. I was actually a manager of about 10 guys. But there's something that I learned in the Army, and it was working with, you know, just civilians, I guess. I don't know if I was institutionalized, but I had a hard time with that, especially being in charge of people, and I would even say millennials, because you tell these guys to put their cell phones away, and they look at you like you're crazy. And in the Army, you do that, and these guys do what they're told, you know, so it was a little different. What I could take away from that experience is I had a hard time working for other people. So I had to switch gears and focus on how I'm going to provide for my family, because that was the most terrifying thing right there. What makes this story very interesting is when I got out of the Army, you know, a couple years later, I've never passed out at work, so you know, I think that's kind of neat. Don't get me wrong, we all have our underlying issues, but that was the biggest reason why I got out, was because I wasn't fit to be a soldier, you know. And guys, my last day in the Army, I'm walking out to this. It's an awesome goodbye, but I'm done. So this is my last day. I'm walking away. So present day right now. Still married, 4 beautiful children. So I started my own LLC, I started my own little business, and I also do full-time YouTube videos. And I do this here, you know, of course, in the garage. It's one of the most rewarding feelings to be able to stay home, hang out with the family, not deploy anymore, not miss Christmases, birthdays. You know, I'm here. Don't get me wrong, every job has its challenges, and this job is very stressful, you know, because I'm on my own now. But what I'm trying to say is I made it work. And not only did I make it work, but it's been working, and it's been doing very well. And this whole story that I've explained to you, and by the way, thank you for watching till the end, but this entire story right here is very difficult for me to explain. As a matter of fact, I didn't even need to explain this to you guys, but I started doing this as a hobby, but in a very small way. It's really helped me deal with, you know, life situations. Working on diesel trucks is sort of my escape. And this is one of my hobbies that sort of helps me. It's kind of like a therapy. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm sure you guys get it though. Kind of looking back at life and how things went, I'll never take it back. I had a lot of tremendous awards. They actually pinned me with the Purple Heart, which is an award that you get for being wounded in combat. And that was a very difficult award for me to receive. I actually turned it down. I didn't want it because I have my hands, my legs, my limbs, my arms. I'm capable. I could still do stuff, you know? I've had friends, very close soldiers, that have lost limbs. They've lost their lives. They've had to leave back their families. They've had even more traumatic issues happen to them. For example, I talked to you guys about traumatic brain injury, which I had, where guys can't even cope or function anymore. You could have been in a very bad car accident, or you could have lost a loved one, and it could have affected you in a very, very hard way. You know, I mean, it affects people very differently. I know guys that's been through way worse than I have, and they're perfectly fine. Everything's good to go. But I think it's really cool that I was able to make it work. God protected me. I have my salvation. I know I'm going to heaven when I die, which is you know, a very important thing to do, of course. But I guess what I'm trying to say is just find that balance in your life where things will work for you. That's kind of where I'm getting at in this video right here. But yeah, I guess that's it, guys. That's the explanation on this video. Of course, I didn't tell you guys everything or the graphic details. I didn't get into everything, which I'd rather not. That's basically the gist of my story and kind of where I'm at. You know, a lot of you guys have subscribed to my channel, watch my videos all the time, watch every video. You get a better understanding of who I am, you know, what I'm about, and why I pursued a hobby like this. So, hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video today. This is your very first time watching this YouTube video. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys want to continue to watch the awesome builds that we have on the channel. And again, thank you guys so much for your support. We'll see you on the next video. Stay tuned.